And okay, so we're live, and I'll start sharing the screen so we know what we're talking about. Share. So I hope you can see minutes of meeting now. Can any of you confirm that you can actually see my screen?
Now I can see it.
Okay, very good. So it's hello everyone. It's me, Evelina, John, and Torsten at the meeting today so far. We have a couple of small issues that I want to discuss. Nothing really crazy. But the first announcement I wanted to make is that I managed to get permissions for Jenkins YouTube channel, so I'm able to handle Hangout on there from now on, which is very good. And I want to thank Oleg and other people that helped me to deal with it very quickly. So that's it. And yeah, Torsten, you wanted to say something, right?
Yes, I just saw that there's quite some PRs. You put one of mine already on the list with the configuration as code, with the reload functionality. And I think I created another one which just adds some demo configurations. And if I remember correctly, one of the contributors already approved it, but it's not been merged. So I just wanted to ask what's the normal procedure over there.
Which one is the other one you were talking about? 707?
Demos for Keycloak EC2, the 707.
Yeah. So now it is, failing for some reason. The procedure is pretty simple. Whenever I have time to go through the PRs, I do it. It's I mean, I don't want to use the same excuse all the time, but I just had a couple of rough months when it comes to my apartment, and because of this whole mess, the list of PRs is just long and waiting. So you did everything you should have done. Maybe in that specific case, it would be great if you could kind of retrigger the build or have a look why the
how can I retrigger it?
Yeah, I mean, the retrigger is maybe too big of a word for that one. You basically have to push another commit to that branch, and it may be, I don't know, it's a small documentation change or whatever. Not the change in functionality, but the way it works now, you can't simply click retrigger button, rebuild button. You have to push another commit and then.
I see. Are there any tests at all for the demos? Because I haven't seen those, and I just added demos. That's why I'm asking.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand your question.
If you have any unit tests or so for the demos folder, because I just added files to the demo configurations.
No, I mean, sometimes it's the build fails for some weird reason, and yeah, we just have to look at it. So,
okay, I'm going to retrigger it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest one.
Okay.
And it fails again. Let's see. We have a problem with CI. It fails sometimes, but this time when it says it cannot be built, I really can't see what's the problem. So I mean, that's not the one we usually had. It's a demos folder, though. I mean, demos changes. So only Markdown files you edited. Then I guess. Just give up on refiguring because I don't expect it to break anything, and I can simply merge it. So it's just in the waiting list for it to be merged.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
I mean, in the end, what I did there was just I played around with configuration as code locally, and I thought it might be worth sharing those examples so that others have it easier to do.
It is, and well, thank you for that. Okay.
In regards to the tests on or the demos, there are some. I remember there was a PR that we talked about during the Jenkins world.
Yes.
With some bats tests. I can't remember how far that went, but that looked very promising for basic syntax testing.
Yes.
And then there's the unit test during this, and there's the source file itself, or the source code itself. There are unit tests for all different kinds of configurations.
Those ones I've seen, yeah.
Yeah. But again, to summarize, I'm going to merge that PR since it's only a change in Markdown file. So we don't expect the build issue to be caused by that commit. So that one will be taken care of quite fast. So there is this validate demos automatically from Jenkins Oktoberfest, but it's still marked as work in progress, and I don't think there was any activity happening lately. So I may check with Victor if they are going to continue. Should we take over, and what's the status? Because I've been there too, and it sounded like a really great idea what they were doing. So yeah, the couple of small things that I wanted to at least mention is that I talked with Oleg a number of times regarding handling security issues, and I promised I will be taking care of that. I got an access to security issues on Jira, thanks to Daniel, and I will try to work on those whenever I have time, but those issues are not available for everyone. So it's not like any of you can just simply go there and pick up an issue, a security issue related to JCAS and work on it if you're interested in that. But I just wanted to make it clear that I have the access now. So if any of you is interested in fixing security issues, just let me know on Gitter or via mail or whatever way you want to contact me, and I'll try to make it happen. I again have to check with Daniel what's the procedure of introducing a new contributor to that. But I just wanted to let you know. I know if there are security issues now, and if you're interested in working with security problems, just let me know. So that's one thing. The other thing is we were discussing the idea of introducing Groovy attribute or root element, a Groovy script element in Jenkins YAML that will allow Jenkins to run Groovy scripts. And the motivation behind that was that we have in Groovy scripts working for Jenkins, and there is a lot of people using those, and there is a lot of people mixing Jenkins configuration as code and Groovy scripts because not all the plugins are supported yet. But one of the very nice JCAS features is the fact that you don't have to restart Jenkins to reapply new configuration after you introduce the change, and it is required when you use init Groovy scripts. So introducing support for Groovy script in JCAS would allow all of those people that are using Groovy scripts to reload their configuration without restarts, and that's great. But we had our reasons for not wanting it to be a part of Jenkins configuration as code plugin, and I think we all agreed on the way forward, which was creating a separate plugin that will just provide support for that and can be configured via configuration as code. And Tomek started working on that, but I'm not sure how far he is, but he had a question, and I would like to hear your opinion. So we, in the repository for Jenkins configuration as code, we keep configuration as code support plugin, and he was wondering if his JCAS Groovy plugin that will provide the functionality that I was just talking about, it could be a part of configuration as code plugin repository, or should it be kept separately? And since this is my first Jenkins plugin, I can't really say I know how it usually works. And I was wondering if any of you have any idea or any opinion regarding the putting the JCAS Groovy plugin inside configuration as code repository, or should it be completely separate? So anyone?
it makes sense keeping it in the repository, but not as part of the core JCask plugin.
Yes.
But it's possible to do it like the support plugin.
Exactly. So
That makes sense to me because this plugin exists solely for the purpose of assisting JCask. So it doesn't make sense to have it as a separate plugin.
So the way we have configuration as code plugin folder, we have support folder, we could have Groovy folder, and this is the place where he could keep his plugin. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, I will just make a quick
just
note.
on that. Part of that depends on who's maintaining it as well. So if it goes into the configuration as code plugin, it would come. So issues would likely come to configuration as code, and so it depends on whether you're able to support it, or at least there'll be support at least on triaging issues as well. So it's simpler for users. It's simpler for building a plugin if it's all in the same repo, but it may add more complexity in the long run as well with people thinking it's part of the core and that it's maintained by the core maintainers where it may not be.
Yeah, I see your point. I will just make a quick note.
I see your point, Tim, and I kind of concur. My point was basically just not to be part of the core. If it's a totally separate plugin, yeah, whatever. But since it's basically just part of the JCask, it could be a sub-component like the support. But yeah, true. Maintainer issues.
There is already a separate configuration as code plugin for AWS secrets, I think. So it's not the first specific configuration as code plugin that's separate.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but whatever. Somebody has to be first movers. It's fine by me if it's separate.
So you said that there is already a plugin that is kind of JCask dedicated, but and is kept in a separate repository.
Yeah, right. It's configuration as code SSM, I think. Have a look. Configuration as code secret SSM plugin. It's something to do with AWS and secrets.
Okay.
It's another secret source.
We'll have to look into that. Heavy users of AWS.
Yeah, and the configuration as code plugin support is kind of handled by the same team that works on configuration as code, or at least originally. So I think it does make sense to keep it where it is. But yes, that's let's not create more confusion. And if we have plugins that are being kept separately, let's keep it the same way with the JCask Groovy plugin. So I'm gonna let Tomasz know that's our view regarding that.
On the configuration as support plugin, that already causes a lot of confusion because it's not automatically installed, but it's needed for a lot of work. Yes. It's needed for a lot of things.
Hopefully, it's not going to be required at some point. It will take some time, but yeah, that's the way it was designed. So we just have to make sure we help all the people that can't configure jobs because they didn't know the configuration tool support is required, and maybe maybe some documentation updates to make it much more clear that this one is most probably required, but have to be installed separately, manually. Clear. Okay, and then we have a number of pull requests or issues. First one is this allow trigger that I wanted to hear your opinion again. Allow triggering reload from local machine without authentication. So I immediately think about security when I see issue like that, feature like that, and yeah, you address the security concern somehow.
I can explain a little bit if you want, because I created the PR.
Yeah, if you can very briefly go through that, I think that would be great for everyone who may be listening an hour later.
So basically what I'd like to achieve is to have the configuration as code within Kubernetes. So if I use a Helm chart to install in Jenkins, and whenever I do a change to the configuration as code, which is just a config map, I'd like to automatically reload. For reload, like it is now, you need an authenticated users and a token for that one, which is not so easy if you just install the machine, because you need the user already there, and there's no way to automatically get a token. Someone explained a way how you can get SSH keys, but still you need to know the user, and maybe that user needs to log in at least once, so that Jenkins is aware of it, which might cause trouble if you're not using the embedded user database. For example, if you use Keycloak or whatever. So what it does, it basically just adds a different endpoint, which says reload, and you can just post to it and it will reload the configuration. By default, that one is disabled. So I introduced another property where you have to explicitly enable that one. And only if it's enabled, then you can call it without authentication. And it's also checking if the call is coming from the local machine, which should be fine in most cases. I mean, the Prometheus is an example where they do it similarly. I mean, they are not even checking for the local machine, because they say, okay, you can enable that feature and all you can do is reload the configuration. So maybe add some load to the instance itself for reloading, but if the configuration is incorrect, it will not be applied at all.
Yes.
And typically, the configuration location is something which you control, and if someone gets access to that one, you've got different problems anyhow. So triggering it from localhost without authentication should be okay in most cases, I assume, but I still want that people have to opt into this option, because if you're running for example, Apache and Jenkins on the same machine, then triggering from localhost might not be wished, because localhost could then be the Apache load balancer in front of it. So therefore, people have to opt in. And if it's not activated, then it behaves just like now, and you get in 404 not authenticated, I think.
Yeah. I'm kind of convinced, but Tim or John, do you have any comment? Tim, you were commenting in that PR before, so.
Let me just have a look. Can you scroll down a little bit on that? Yeah. Not huge either way. So there's another PR that's quite similar, which adds a pipeline step for it.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's a big need. So there's definitely a need for making it easier to reload configuration.
Yes.
It's a little bit difficult now. CLI can be a bit difficult. It's quite often blocked on your reverse proxy, and so agents may not be able to access it. So yeah, there's definitely a need to solve here, and whether we allow no authentication or not. And certainly wasn't against them making it easier to remove, so you didn't have to include the crumb bit. I thought that was definitely worth making it easier to use API. But yeah, I'm just not sure whether you should be able to do it without authentication. It should be safe though, because your configuration has to be protected. So I don't know whether it's a big issue to allow users to be able to reload it without authentication. The only potential problem is denial of service, I would say, which is probably the biggest issue.
I think if the configuration is stored on the same machine as Jenkins, as soon as you get access to that one, I can as well just play around with the configuration itself and make myself an administrator. So that's why
it's not about the configuration. It's about asking Jenkins to do all of its reloading. There's a whole bunch of changes there which are probably slightly disruptive, or that's causing load on Jenkins that may or may not be good if someone can just keep hitting their endpoints.
That's right.
Especially if you do want to enable it, but you are behind a reverse proxy, which is making you localhost. So that would be where authentication would prevent that sort of attack.
But typically, I mean, the load balancer is hopefully not on the same machine. That's why I said, for me, it's an opt-in. I mean, from...
sorry, I can hear some scratching, and I don't know which one of you make the noise, but please mute unless you talk. Sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
I mean, there's a similar issue, which is just proposing to watch for file system changes. I suppose that would also be an option to implement it, but then you have to pay attention if you've got multiple configuration file. One has already changed, the other has not. Do you re-trigger it then? And the file system watching might be different on Windows, Linux, and so on. And this one just gives people a little bit of flexibility how they want to re-trigger it. But security-wise, yeah.
I was just saying, I'm not strong either way, so it's kind of down to Evelina, or if you wants to get any input from the likes of Daniel Beck or anyone.
Yeah, I think I will try to pull Oleg on that, because he's very interested in security of the plugin for well, a couple of reasons. So, as I say, I am in favor, and I do understand the need, and I'm unhappy that we don't have this feature working well so far. But I don't want to create more mess, so I will take that to Oleg, who is a core developer, and he's
absolutely makes sense. And I mean, if you decide that it would make more sense to have an API token for that one, and for example, just provide an additional flag on the command line where you specify the token. You can only call that one with a token. That would also be fine. I mean, I can easily make that adjustment if needed.
Yeah. That is great to know. And then, like, the meeting is being recorded, so Oleg will be able to follow the discussion if he finds time for that. So I'm gonna check with him if he can help us, or if he can suggest someone else to have a look at it. But thanks all for the input, and well, thanks for implementing that. I'm pretty sure we can make it happen, maybe with some small adjustments, but let's see how it looks. So yeah, I will just make notes. Okay, then we have step to reload, and this is it the same functionality, kind of?
It's basically just a different trigger. I mean, what they are doing is
it's running inside of Jenkins
within the pipeline.
And yeah, again, Tim, you were asking the security. How safe is that? Override go.
Yeah. So my main problem with it was it allowed you to override the target. Whereas I think if you're not in an administrative context, you shouldn't be able to change it. So I think it's quite reasonable just to allow reload, because that allows sort of webhook integration. If you're using a remote file, you can just trigger a webhook, which will just run and safely reload it. But I didn't like that the user could override the target, which could allow you to change the pipeline and change the files.
Change the authentication.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could certainly change the authentication for Jenkins by allowing you to override the target.
Okay, but I mean, I think that one is basically the same comment as above. So how do I do it here?
Except you're logged into Jenkins when you're running it.
Sorry?
Or it's slightly different security-wise, but it's still good to get Oleg's view on it. But I think that one's safer as long as you can't reload. As long as you can't change the files, like change which files are loaded.
Yeah. But I mean, if you.
And I mean, it's.
You can always change the content of the file like very radically, and then reload it, and then still you can mess up the configuration quite. But then the security of the configuration file is, I mean, is something.
But typically, I mean, as long as the administrator has to specify the configuration location during startup, I mean, he's in charge to ensure that this is a safe place.
Yeah.
The issue I see with step, if you can override the location, then it suddenly becomes an unsafe place where the configuration is stored. Or potentially could be.
I'm happy with that PR if some changes are made that you can't change the target. But I think it would be a good addition.
Okay, I'll put a comment in that one. So Daniel will know. And what do we have here?
So that bit's there about plugin developers being able to make sure that what they export is what they expect and that it actually works. Currently, there is a little bit of documentation there, but it's using a restricted API. It's using an output stream. So it's not the best API. It's restricted. And there is documentation saying you can do this, but it's not finished. And I also had problems trying to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think someone else managed it worked for their plugin, so I'm not quite sure.
So who's that?
He's a student at a university working on adding configuration as code support to a plugin.
Okay, but this
being mentored by someone in the community.
Yeah, so so there's an issue you reported, and that's it for now. Are you planning to work on that, or is there?
Sorry, I couldn't quite catch all that.
Sorry. So yeah, because I got a little bit confused. So this is an issue you're reporting, and are you planning to work on that, or are you just making us aware of the issue? And yeah,
probably a little bit of getting to the design of whether we want to keep using what's in the documentation there or create a new API that plugins can use that's easier to use, and whether it's something that we want plugins to be doing, because it's kind of unclear in the documentation at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in general, some documentation updates are really required. So we will try to. I mean, I will try to work on that. I hope some of you will try to work on that too. But well, thanks for explaining that. And I hope we'll get to that part. Is there anything else that is not on the list that any of you would like to talk about? So I take it as a no. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your view on help with. I'm going to close the meeting now. I will talk to Oleg when I have a chance, when he has the time for that, and we'll see where how it goes. And the next meeting we'll have in 2 weeks at the same time, unless any of you feel that there is a need to have a meeting earlier because whatever reason. Let's just use Peter to synchronize on that. So I'm going to stop the broadcast and I will thank you.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
See ya.